everybody, Mac is back for another one, and this is called the Petro Dollar. Very, very strong topic and a good one, and I'm looking forward to all your comments. As always, very insightful to see everybody's thoughts and ideas on all my topics, and this is why I have this channel, for everybody to communicate with each other and learn stuff from each other. So let's get to it. The Petro Dollar started in the early 70s by the OPEC nations, or by the United States, and this pretty much was started by Saudi Arabia. Was the first country that the United States agreed to this OPEC nation thing that started. And what they did, they told Saudi Arabia, if you only accept US dollars for your oil, that will protect your land from any enemies, invasions, and stuff of that nature. So that's very intriguing. That seems like a pretty good deal at the time. The U.S. military was always the strongest in the world, or at least known to man it was anyway. So take it. All right, great deal. And other nations throughout the years joined in as well. Nobody knew this Ponzi scheme yet. That was not well known, too early into the system for any of the countries to find out like they do now, which is why they're one out of this. Okay? So, OPEC, what does that mean? It's the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries. That's what that means. 12 countries I did look online from the OPEC website, and they are Algeria, Angola, Ecuador, the interesting ones that are supposedly by George Bush, the exile of evil countries, Iran, Iraq, well, not Kuwait, but Kuwait's in there, Libya. Very interesting. Those are all the countries where pretty much we get involved in wars in. Nigeria, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Venezuela. Those are the 4 countries to date that sell their oil for US dollars. So, how does the US petrodollar work? Every country in this world, well, at one point, had to use US dollars to purchase oil. Okay? Not every country had US dollars back in, especially in the 70s. Okay? So, what did the countries have to do today? 2 major factor ways to do it. Either exchanging your fiat currency system that you have now in your country to US dollars, which is very costly to have the banking system to do that for you. Or the preferred way, which most countries do, if not all of them, is exporting goods to the United States to get the US dollar. So then they can go buy the oil that the country needs for the economy to grow and everything else. Sounds alright, that's cool. Sounds good in the beginning. But now let's get to the details of it. So, I'm going to use an example of Japan, and I'll use Iraq with Saddam Hussein. Okay, even though he's pretty much a done deal, but we'll use that, okay, from Iraq. For Japan to get oil from Iraq, they'll most likely send their Honda cars to the United States to get the US dollars, okay? Once they get the US dollars, they can do business with Iraq to buy the oil, okay? Iraq gets the money, US dollars, Saddam will send the oil. But Saddam can't keep all the money. Oh, hold up. You know, we're the elite here, we're in this country. You got to give us some of that money back. So, how does the United States get some of that money back? By forcing Saddam, with his excess profits from making that deal for fiat currency, US dollar, for your oil, for his oil, he has to buy the US Treasury bonds with the excess profits. And as we know, the US Treasury bonds are not a very hyped thing to buy. Matter of fact, it has no appeal whatsoever to purchase because you're losing money. The yield is lower than even the yearly inflation rate. So you're losing money to buy that. What investor wants to buy something that's an automatic guaranteed loss? Nobody. But you're forced to. By the OPEC countries. Or should I say the United States government? I don't even know if it's the United States government. I'll go one power higher. The most powerful one. The Federal Reserve and the Wall Street bankers. They're in control of everything. After all, Federal Reserve prints the money. So that's how the petrodollar system works. Now, that is one reason why other countries are getting out of the petrodollar today, which are quite a few of them. Okay, we all know about China and Russia are no longer involved in this. India wants out. They're trading gold for oil now with Iran. Iran doesn't want anything to do with this. Nobody does, man, really. Just the countries that are forced to. Okay? Because it's a losing bet with your profits going back to America for nothing. But here's the deal. Don't tell nobody this. This is our secret again. Okay, another secret about the 100-to-1 ratio. Gold to silver. Ready for this one? Another secret for you fellas. The United States gets free oil. No way. We can't. We get free oil. Free oil. No other country in the world gets free oil. Only we do. Does that sound fair? Now I understand why the whole world hates the United States. It isn't because we bomb every country, which pretty much we do anyway, which is another reason why they should hate us. But not the main reason. The main reason is we steal their wealth. Plain and simple. Would you be happy if somebody came to your house and said, I'm taking your wealth? Can't do nothing about it? That's the bully taking your lunch money. Okay? So, how do I get to the conclusion the U.S. gets free oil? Plain and simple. What do you buy oil with? U.S. dollars. Who makes U.S. dollars? Federal Reserve. So, United States need oil from Iraq. Well, what do? Printing press. Send it to Iraq. They send us the oil. Wait, it gets better. Hey, Saddam, guess what, man? You can't keep all the money we printed. You got to buy our U.S. Treasury bonds now. And by the way, that's debt from the money we printed, free money that we printed out of thin air to get your oil. So now you have to pay the debt on the money we printed to get your oil. Now, that's not a crazy scheme. Nothing is. Okay? This is why a lot of countries want to get out. They now caught on to that Ponzi scheme. Okay? The United States is getting free oil. And they have to pay the debt of the printed money to get the free oil. Not us. Other countries for their oil. We have to pay the debt in other areas of them printing money. But not with the petrodollar. Other countries pay that debt. The dollar gets printed on. Or for. Okay? So that's why they hate us. Can't blame them. Bullies on the block. They're not liked by too many people, if any. So, this is why I believe the U.S. economy was killed by it. It was intended to. And it's going to be that way until the U.S. petrodollar dies along with our dollar and a new system begins. Okay? So, how does it kill it? Very simple. Like I said earlier, countries have to export goods to get the U.S. dollar. So, I'm going to use an example of Nike. Okay? And, so we'll say India. Nike in India, just for an example. Okay? India doesn't have too much exports to come to the United States to get the U.S. dollar necessary for their oil. For the oil the country needs. So, the U.S. dollar, or the U.S. country, helps them out by putting rules, regulations on these big countries. Excuse me, not big countries, the big companies like Nike, okay, to get them out of the country. Whether it's regulations on how many employees, the Obamacare now that's coming up, okay, the cost of living of it, have to have employees per hour rate, the insurance to have it, okay, The energy costs to run a company, the electricity and everything else, the supplies to make those sneakers is so high in this country, forced by the government, along with the rules and regulations, that they force these countries to leave. These companies to leave our country and to go into another country with less or any rules and regulations for businesses. And you can pay their employees with very little money. Don't know what the insurance is over in those countries, like in India, like my example. Maybe there is no. Maybe the government just takes care of that, like a few other countries I know do. So now Nike gets kicked out of the United States for either one of those two reasons or both. Now they're in India, making up all the sneakers there, sending it to the United States. So now India can get the US dollars to buy their oil, Iraq's oil. Okay? So, see how that works? Why all our big companies and factories are closing down in the last 30 years? It was forced by the government to have these companies go overseas, so the country they go in have the goods to send to us for the US dollar, so then they can buy the oil. Okay? That's my personal opinion why these companies are leaving the United States. The government did it. So, they go to a different country, make more profits. They're not going to complain too much about that, right? And in return, that country gets to send those goods to the United States for the money that they need for the oil. The United States probably makes more money on this than the property taxes on the land that these companies need to be on, and the taxes for their profits that we're being over here on. Now they're getting the print-free money, having that country pay the debt on it, and they're getting free oil from it. It's a win-win situation. Okay? I don't care about the economy of us not having jobs over here. Seriously, if they really cared about it, those factories wouldn't be here. They never would have left here. Okay? The Petro Dollar system wouldn't allow these countries to do this type of thing, of the scam. I'm telling you, this is why the companies are leaving this country, because of the Petro Dollar. The government wants them out of here into a different country so you can have a demand for our dollar to save it. Okay? Because there's a high demand for the US dollar in other countries because they need it for the oil. For now. Okay? A lot of countries caught on to this. And the last two presidents, Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein, who wanted to use the euro for their oil, both got killed. Gaddafi got assassinated by Al-Qaeda. We hired Al-Qaeda to take him out. He also had his gold in play. He was this close to having a gold standard in his country. Okay? Saddam Hussein said it to the world. We want to use the euro for our oil. We do not want the US dollar anymore. Why not? Euro is more valuable than a dollar, right? It still is. So he wanted to get away from that and keep all the profits to himself. Okay? Why give it to another country, your profit? Okay? So, that's why we killed him. It wasn't a massive destruction. And it's not even about this Iran thing now, of this nuclear bomb, or the nuclear plant they want. That's just a side thing, man. That ain't the real deal. Trust me. It's because they're not using the petrodollar. They are even put a video on here with that Arab guy speaking about that. They're accepting oil or gold for their oil from Iran, from India and any other country. The United States can't go into Iran and go bomb them like they did Saddam and invade Libya, because they got China and Russia backing them up. It ain't happening, America. You ain't going in there. It just ain't. So, that's why I believe the US dollar or the economy has crashed. And the US dollar is going to be crashing as well because of the petrodollar. Because now these countries are no longer buying the treasury bonds because they're not using the US dollar anymore to buy the oil. Which is why the Federal Reserve is now buying the treasury bonds from the QEs. Okay, what are you spending, $40 billion a month on that? And it happened to be 2012 when China no longer used the US dollar to buy oil. Cut you out. Very interesting. Seems to be very coincidental timing, right? When China said they're using it anymore. So if they don't use it anymore, they're not using the excess profits for the United States to have their treasury bonds purchased. So that's less treasury bonds purchased. So therefore, the Federal Reserve is buying them. And there's other countries now that are getting out of the U.S. Petro Dollar system and using their own currency to trade with other countries and bypassing this whole scam. And this is why the Federal Reserve will never be able to stop printing the printing press, because nobody else is buying the treasury bonds. Everybody's getting out of petrodollar, and all those US dollars that are in their country are going to be coming back to here, and that's going to be the hyperinflation world. It's not going to be from the Federal Reserve printing money for all this other stuff they're doing, the treasury bonds and the mortgage-backed securities. That money doesn't really go into circulation of the people. It's going to the banks. It's the money that the other countries have that no longer want it because they're not using the US dollar anymore to get the oil. When those things flood into this country, then you'll probably see your $1,500 an ounce of silver and $50,000 gold. You can be jumping up and down, right? Don't quite think so when your dozen eggs cost about $4,000. So this is why I believe the U.S. economy was crashed by the petrodollar, why the U.S. dollar is going to be crashed by the petrodollar. And this is why our U.S. military is so strong, because the petrodollar, these kind of countries are paying for our military from the scam money we're getting from them. Thanks for watching this video. If anybody has any other comments or any other information, insights about this petrodollar system that I failed to mention, it's pretty hard. I got some stuff written down here, but I got tired of doing some research in my book that I have. Got pretty bored in it. Told me a lot more history about oil. And by the way, oil is past its prime production. Okay? So, who knows? Another 20, 30 years, the population increases, we need higher demands of oil. We're running into problems in about 20 years for oil. Oil may be the #1 commodity to have. You can't really stock that too much in your house. But gold and silver, that's not going to be a commodity that's going to be running pretty low in 20 years. It's going to be oil. Okay? Electric cars, you better start hurrying up with that technology, because petrodollar is going to be done. I hate to say it, good Lord, people, pray something good's going to happen, because when his money comes flooding in, we're not going to be happy with our 50,000 gold and 1,500 ounces of silver. Trust me, hyperinflation is the worst. It's the worst. It's not good. Same thing with the inflation. We need a strong economy, not a very weak one. I can care less what my gold and silver does. I'd rather have everybody have a job in this country and thrive strong, and just have gold and silver as a safe, stable thing than a scared, safe haven thing any day. Thanks, everybody. Peace.